Thank you for those of you who have already joined. We are going to start the live Experts on Air session in 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, at the top of the hour, we're going to start the live session of the Experts on Air session. Thank you. Okay, welcome everybody. We are going to start with the live Experts on Air session for the Project Management for Development course. My name is Menno Valkenburg. I am a project pilot, a project management consultant. I'm based in Havana, Cuba, currently in the Netherlands. With me is also Cherise Roddock. Cherise is in Jamaica. Cherise will help me in the background to take your live questions. We are having this session to discuss several questions that came in on the course. You had the opportunity to ask your questions. We received many questions. The Project Management for Development course is supported and funded by the Inter-American Development Bank. So also a warm welcome on behalf of the IDB, the Inter-American Development Bank. We have right now in the course more than 11,000 registered participants. The median learner age is 31 years, and we have participants from 185 countries, which is really an amazing number. the top 10 countries: USA, India, Nigeria, and also Jamaica. So Jamaica is number 4. Cherise will be very happy with that. I also see Indonesia, Brazil, Guyana, United Kingdom, Canada, and Trinidad and Tobago. So that's all great. You're here. So let's start. We have a number of, I think, about 12 questions that came in through the course, but you also have the opportunity to ask your live questions. So there is the link below where you logged into this live session. You can click that link, and then you get into a section where you can ask your live questions, and your live questions will be noted by Cherise, and we will put them forward towards the end of this live session. So let's start with the first question. The first question came in from Renard, and it actually relates to communication. So let me quickly read the question for you. The question is, how can the role and importance of good communication be enhanced in large organizations like development banks, multinational development banks like the IDB, where project officers are often very little concerned with this, what they call cherry on the top communication, since their supervisors also hardly push for better communication? Okay, I don't know if this is the case in all projects, but apparently from Renard, from your perspective, that is happening. So I definitely want to try and address that concern or that question. Linked with this, there was another question from Asha, and that is about what are the fundamentals of good communication, and how do you encourage it at all skills, large or small projects, I assume. So what I would like to do is I would like to answer this question, or both of these questions. And let me start with saying that communication is really critical in projects. Communication is really one of the fundamental things, one of the key things you want to get right as a project manager, as a project team. And if we look at the fundamentals of good communication, you really want to start with identifying who are your key stakeholders, including your sponsor. And I think that links to that first part of the question. If your supervisor or if the sponsor of the project is not really engaged, how can you then engage that sponsor in the project? Because you need that. You need an engaged sponsor to really have a successful project. So as part of fundamentals of good communication, which you can also see here on the slide, you need to identify these stakeholders, then analyze the stakeholder needs. So what are the needs of the stakeholders of the project for the project to become successful? You then want to engage stakeholders, and you try to do that by developing and implementing a good communication plan or communication matrix. In the course that you are currently attending, it's actually not part of these first 5 modules that we're discussing this week, but it's in module 6, you'll see the communication matrix or the communication plan and how you can develop that. So that is a critical tool that you really want to try and understand how to develop that. And then a critical part is also monitoring and control communication, because it's good to have a plan, but you want to make sure that the things are actually happening and the communication is actually happening. Now, specifically for communication in MDBs, multilateral development banks, the PM4R, Project Management for Results, as I mentioned briefly, includes actually a communication tool, how you can develop that communication matrix. So that, to me, would be a sort of a critical element of making sure that communication happens. And then the other element is really make sure that you have an engaged sponsor for the project. If the project is because the project is really unlikely to be successful and will not achieve results if you don't really have an engaged sponsor or engaged sponsorship. Okay, so that was that first question. I hope that answered your question. If not, you can still ask follow-up questions in the live section of this webinar. We will get to those live questions towards the end. So let's move to question number 2. Question number 2 came in from Rajesh. Thank you very much, Rajesh, for that question. The question deals with critical path. So this is a little bit more sophisticated, if you like. It's part of the scheduling tool, and you probably read in the course and saw some nice videos about the critical path. The question is how to deal with multiple critical paths in single projects. Designing critical path is a challenging task and needs accuracy. I absolutely agree. The process must clarify single tasks followed by previous and next tasks and require multiple tasks simultaneously to save time. Well, if you look at the principles of the critical path, and if you look at large projects, and typically the development projects we are looking at are typically quite large projects, it is likely that you will have parallel activities. And when you make sure that the activities are properly sequenced, so what goes first, what goes next, what is sort of the logical sequence of the activities, then that could result in having multiple critical paths within your project. So that is how these critical paths actually exist or start to surface. Now, this in itself is not a problem. It's not necessarily a problem to have multiple paths, multiple critical paths. In fact, this will probably happen. What is important is to recognize that you have these multiple critical paths that can push the end date of the project, because that is one of the key elements of a critical path. If an activity on the critical path is delayed, then that will push the end date of the project. So you have to realize that if you want to address that, if you want to speed up the project, make sure that you focus your efforts on activities that are on the critical path or activities that are on the multiple critical path. So if you have multiple critical paths in your project, you want to make sure that you add those resources or make the work more efficient on those critical path activities. And another thing to realize and keep in mind is that the critical path will likely change over time. So as the project progresses, things will change, and also your critical paths will probably change. So I hope that answers your question, Rajesh. Let's go to question number 3. And you can enter your live questions. I'm going to mention it a couple of times. So for those of you who are joining us now live in this live session, you can enter your live questions in the section below where you logged into this session. And I'm very happy to try and answer any live questions you have at the end of this presentation. Let's go to the next question that came in. The next question, number 3, came in from Vilva. It received 3 votes. And the question is, how to handle total project management with using software? We actually did have another question on software, and we decided to group that here as well. That question was, is there any software which can handle a project with all parts as we watched in the course? Now, software is always interesting. I actually studied computer science, and I'm a very big fan of using software for all kinds of things. But I also became to realize that software itself is not going to solve your problem. So you really need to understand the process or the topic that you're working on, in this case, project management, in order to use software supporting those project management processes. Because there are many project management softwares available online. If you just Google on project management software, you'll see you get an amazing number of hits. Especially these days, you'll find a lot of these software as a service, web-based software packages. And of course, you have software packages like Microsoft Project, but you also have open source versions of that, like OpenProj, and there are some Gantt chart open source project softwares. A lot of the project software requires licenses, so you either get into a monthly license fee or per user, or you buy a license for the package to install it on your laptop. So there is not really one software that does everything. In fact, a lot of project teams are using Excel to do their project management, and Excel can be very effective as long as you know what you use it for, and as long as you try not to make it too complicated. So it really depends a little bit on what you need. There's no one-size-fits-all software. And what is really important is that you make sure that you understand the PM4R and also PMBOK principles. PMBOK is the project management body of knowledge, which is the guide to project management issued by the Project Management Institute, and PM4R, the training that you are into, is actually based on these PMBOK principles. So these principles provide the basic knowledge of project management, which you need to effectively use any software. And please note that being versed on project management software is not project management in itself. So make sure you understand the principles of project management, and then look for software that can support whatever project management processes and principles you want to put in your project. So I hope that answers that question. I think we have received the first live questions, so that's great. I look forward to those towards the end of this, the prepared questions that we're answering now, or that came in earlier. Let's go to question number 4, and feel free to put in your live questions as they come up. Question number 4 came in from Anina Heway. I hope I pronounced that correct. The question is, one of the greatest challenges I have observed in procurement is identifying quality consultants. Do you have any recommendations or strategies or adjustments to procedures that will help balance quality, cost, and fairness / transparency concerns in the hiring of consultants? That's a very good question, Anina. And I think procurement typically in these types of development projects is a very critical aspect of the project. And you want to make sure the procurement happens consistently and also transparent and follows the guidelines and procedures that are established by the donor. So let's look at some practices that we've seen that have worked over the past years in procurement. Well, first of all, a clearly articulated terms of reference for the consultancy or for whatever the procurement is, which includes clear and accurate scope of work, is critical. So you want to make sure that you start the procurement off in a good way by having a good terms of reference, so that really everybody understands what is needed and what is the scope of the work. Second is that you want to make sure that you budget adequately for quality consultants. So if your budget is too low and your scope is too big or too challenging, then it's unlikely that you will get good quality consultants or good quality procurement. So you want to make sure there is a balance between the budget that you have and have assigned and the scope of work that you have developed in the terms of reference. And then a third element is to make sure when you start publishing your procurement is that you use a variety of media for advertising, so that you ensure you get the widest reach for your procurement request. So I hope that answers your question. You can put in your live questions as we go. We have a couple of them coming in, so thank you for that, and please continue putting in your live questions. Let's go to question number 5. Question number 5 comes in from Jose Alejandro. Thank you, Jose Alejandro, for your question. It's also about procurement. His question is, during the procurement process, how can the process be optimized with the focus on regional outsourcing and purchasing to increase regional economic activities? Must there be any special partnerships, advisors, scouts beforehand? If the cost of importing all goods is cheaper, will the purchasing be done outside, or will it be preferred to enhance and stimulate the local economy where the project is being carried out? It's a very good question, very relevant question. Can be quite challenging. I think it really depends on the project you have at hand. So it really starts with the design of the project. And during the project design, what you typically see is that you will develop a high-level procurement plan. And in that high-level procurement plan, you can already indicate which procurements can likely be procured locally. And it could actually be part of the project to make sure that the local market gets an opportunity to bid for those procurements. But in some cases, you probably know that locally there is not much available, so you would have to go in for international procurements, and that's also fine. So you can, during the design of the project, you would typically already include that in your high-level procurement plan. Now then, during the preparation for execution of the project, then you will typically prepare an updated 18-month procurement plan. And in this procurement plan, you will definitely have a chance to relook at, okay, what do we need to procure? Is this now really available locally? Do we have to go internationally? Have we assigned sufficient budget? Are the procurement methods the right procurement methods that we think we need? And then you still have an opportunity to swap and change between locally and internationally. But at the end of the day, what you want to make sure is that you procure what you need to achieve the results of your project. So if that can be done with local consultants, that's great, and that probably has the preference. If not, you probably want to go for international. And during the project, you will anyhow update your procurement plan frequently. So if things change, if local resources become available, then you can always include that at a later stage. So I hope that answers that question. So please make sure to put in your live questions. We're almost halfway with the questions that came in previously. So we're going to answer those previous questions first. And then towards the end, we're going to take your live questions. You now still have a chance to put your live questions. Cherise is in the background monitoring the live questions that come in, and she will put them forward towards the end of this presentation. Okay, let's go to question number 6. Question number 6 is about new technologies. As I mentioned earlier, I studied computer science. I'm very into new technologies, and I always try to use new technologies to make things more efficient. And this question is actually also linked to that. So with the advent of all these new technologies in construction, do you think that projects will be more sustainable and more efficient with time, man hours, and work packages, translating to better use of resources and less waste and better transparency? Well, I think technology advancements can definitely be very useful and really increase efficiency. And I think we've seen that, and the person who asked this question is linking it to construction. So I think in construction, you see a lot of developments, including 3D design and building information management systems. And I think those developments really help to come up with better construction, probably also with safer construction. Whether it will really reduce the time spent, the man hours, I don't know. I think it will definitely help increase the quality. And I think what is important to realize is that the importance of human capital in projects should not be underestimated. Over the years, I became more and more aware that you can have the greatest tools, you can have the greatest processes, but at the end of the day, it's really the people and the human capital side of projects that determine whether a project will be successful or not. So yes, I think it will help, but you still need the people to make your projects successful. Okay, so I hope that answered your question. Let's go to question number 7. Question number 7 came in from Mona. It's a more generic question. It talks about certifications. And the question is, how do you see the future of PMP certification, which is not only expensive, excuse me, which is not only expensive, but require prior experience in the field as well? How can a person without prior experience can become a project manager? Okay, so Mona mentions the PMP certification. PMP is one of the certifications of PMI, the Project Management Institute. This course will actually, if you successfully complete this course, will also give you a certification. You will, if you have opted for that option, you will receive, after successful completion of the course, you will receive a certificate. And that certificate can definitely help you in developing your project management skills. So to look at the second part of this question, how can a person without prior experience become a project manager? Well, this course is actually a great starting point. So what you learned in this course, you can apply on your projects. Although it's a course for development projects, I think a lot of the techniques you learn in this course can be applied to basically any project. With that, you can start gaining your experience. And then at some point, you maybe want to pursue other certifications. Now, what is important also to realize is that project management has been around for many, many years. And in roughly the 1990s, maybe a little bit earlier, the PM field really began to be organized and structured as a scientific field, applying standardized principles and processes. And this is also when PMI started to appear and when the first edition of the Project Management Body of Knowledge Guide came. And to be fair, also other standards came out and other methodologies like Prince2. There's another organization called IPMA, the International Project Management Association. There are many, many organizations and many people that look into project management. So if you want to into certifications, there are many, many different options. Yes, for PMP, you need proof of project management experience for a number of years, and you need to really develop that. And achieving a certification will really, in project management, will enhance your career. And it will be a great foundation for a universal application. So I can definitely recommend to dive further into it and get as much experience as you can, and then start looking into other certifications beyond this one as well. Okay, we have 2 questions in now from the live questions, so there is still room for more questions. We are about 23 minutes now in the session. We have a maximum of an hour, but if we finish earlier, we'll finish earlier. So if you have any live questions that you want to put in, please put them in now. Charisse will be looking at them in the background, put them ready for me to answer in a little bit. Let's go to question number 8. Question number 8 came in from Mauren Beckford. Thank you, Mauren. The question is, does project management involve all projects, even scientific researches? Well, I think the answer is yes, Mauren. Project management principles can really be applied to many different types of projects in many different types of sectors and industries, including research. In fact, I had a client once was in the Netherlands, but was an international client, a large chemicals company, and they had a huge research R&D department, and they actually realized that a lot of their work were actually projects because they had a start and end date, and a lot of the principles of project management could be applied to those projects. So they started to apply more and more project management principles in those projects as well. So an important thing to remember is that the project management principles and processes are universal enough and follow international standards, so they can be basically applied to any project. I hope that answers your question. Let's go to question number 9. Question number 9 came in from Mona. And her question is, being certified for this course will help getting placed in any IDB projects across the globe. Well, this course will definitely help you develop your project management skills, and will also show to people you get in touch with that you have really invested and learned key project management skills and aspects. So it will really help your professional development. The methodology that is taught is the IDB PM4R methodology, Project Management for Result. And that methodology can basically apply to any project. So not only will it probably increase your chances to land jobs maybe with IDB projects, but also with other projects, maybe also projects funded by other multilateral development banks or by the World Bank. PM4R is really a well-recognized methodology. This training, this IDBx training, has run for a couple of years now. There are more and more people who get certified, so it becomes more and more known. We are also a registered education provider with PMI, so the links with PMI are very strong. So I think this will really help advance your career. Okay, question number 10, also from Mona, and it looks like this is also from a construction point of view. The question is for large EPC, and I put here what I think EPC stands for is engineering, procurement, construction. It's a term that is used in construction projects. So for large EPC kind of projects, which methodologies you suggest for project management? How to deal with complexity? It's actually interesting. I have a client which is a large multinational engineering firm. And they are a lot into these EPC type of projects, into engineering projects, into design projects, construction projects. And they decided globally to adopt the PMI, project management body of knowledge, as their standard way of working. Now, they need to develop the methodology because the PMBOK is a guideline. And you will still need to adjust and apply that to your organization. But that company has really adopted the PMBOK principles. And they are in construction. PMI even has a construction extension to the PMBOK. So that addresses specific knowledge areas that are applicable for the construction sector. So what is important to realize is that each organization and the project managers in the organization would still need to use the principles to define your specific project management methodology. And you would still need to decide, okay, what kind of templates are we going to use, and what kind of processes, and how exactly is this going to work, and basically develop your methodology. The IDB has adopted the standard project management principles from the PMBOK into the PM4R methodology. So in fact, by reading the PMA guide, the PM4R guide, you can sort of see what a methodology could look like. And you've also seen some templates in the course, you had some cases. So that is really what a methodology is all about. Now, and then what you can do is you can apply that to various projects in your organization. Okay, so we are getting, I think we have 2 more questions that came in previously. So I'm going through those, and then we're going to take your live questions. We have a couple of live questions that came in. There's still time to put in your live questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in now. And Cherise will look at them in the background. We have 3 live questions now, so that's great. Let me take question number 11. Also from Mona. Thank you, Mona, for participating so great in this training and asking so many questions. How to incorporate market conditions as inflation and unforeseen economical impact in contracting. Again, this could be linked to maybe construction projects or structural projects. And that can really be a risk, because the market conditions you can really not foresee. You don't know exactly what's going to happen. So there are a lot of uncertainties in there. One of the modules of the PM4R course is also dealing with risk and the risk matrix. So this could be a candidate also for that section. But what we would like to share with you is that in this specific question, I think fiscal management and budgeting risks are usually addressed during project design. And what you would do there is you would include some kind of contingency line in your budget. So if you already know that your project is going to operate in a certain market where you will have a risk of maybe price fluctuations or market conditions that will change your budget requirements, then what you could typically do is add a contingency line that can be used for those unforeseen economic or inflation impacts on the project in the long run. And then the other thing you can do is during the development of your financial bids and contract negotiations with suppliers and contractors, they may often discuss you may often discuss future economic impacts and make accommodations in the contract price. So you also have an opportunity to look at that risk when you have your contract negotiations and discuss together with the contractor what's the best way to address it, and basically where do you put the risk? Is the risk going to be put at the contractor? Is the risk going to be put at the project? Is the risk going to be transferred to a third party? Because that's also a risk strategy that you could use in this case. But that's actually all part of that risk module. So you may want to look also at that risk module in the training and see how you can deal with that in a good way. All right, let's go to the last question that came in preparation for this live session. That's question number 12 from Rocio Polanco. Thank you, Rocio. It's an interesting question. The question goes as follows. I have worked in environmental development projects where there could be more than 2,000 work packages, each one with a very small budget, reducing efficiency and increasing greatly processes and work. Usually these projects don't have material outcomes which generate them additional difficulties. What do you recommend in those cases? Well, in short, I recommend make sure that you develop a good WBS, a good work breakdown structure. The work package that you mentioned, the term work package that you mentioned is one of the elements in the work breakdown structure, as you probably saw in the scope planning tool of this course, module 2. What you want to make sure is that these 2,000 work packages really link to deliverables and other tangible results. So the normal logical structure of a work breakdown structure is that you have your project at the top, then you have your components at level 1, and then you have your outputs at level 2. Your outputs will break into deliverables, and your deliverables will break into work packages. So you want to make sure that all of these 2,000 work packages in some way or form link to a deliverable. The deliverable will link to outputs or products, which are really the tangible results of the project. And by developing that, by structuring that, you develop a clear work breakdown structure so that project stakeholders, including project team members that need to work on these work packages, always know to what concrete and material result or deliverable their work on a work package is leading to. So the WBS is really an amazing tool that you can not only use to clarify your scope, but also in this case, if you have so many work packages with little budgets and things like that, what does that work package represent in the bigger picture? So I hope that helps Rocio to further work on that. Now, let's look at some of the live questions that came in. I think we have a couple of live questions. Those are always a little bit exciting for me because I have not seen them before, so I need to read them as we see them here. Okay, so one live question came in from VK. And let me look at the question. Non-proprietary files or software for project management. Project management involves managing many different documents, materials, procurement matrices, human resources, Gantt charts, tracking Gantt charts, EVA, earned value analysis, Excel sheets, minutes of meetings, etc. How does IDB recommend all these documents be tracked, filed in a way that they can be accessed and updated on a daily, ongoing basis as needed for a development project? Are there boilerplate template documents available? Are there boilerplate template documents available or recommended by the IDB or PMBOK? Okay, that's a good question. So it builds a little bit further on that earlier question of software. Well, let me start with the PMBOK, the Project Management Body of Knowledge. The Project Management Body of Knowledge is a guide to project management, and it does not talk about any specific software. The PMBOK does not recommend any software. The IDB also does not recommend any specific software. It's basically up to the project team to decide how they want to handle all the documents. I can share with you what some projects do. I've been working with IDB projects for more than 10 years now in the Caribbean. So I have seen a lot of projects. I've seen a lot of different systems that they use. what they definitely do is they set up a system where they can share documents. So they would have a file sharing system where they can share documents. What they can also do is they can provide templates. So for example, for the AOP, the annual operating plan, there are templates available. And these could be templates in Excel. In some cases, there could be templates available in Microsoft Project. And basically that is what the IDB can provide. In this training class, you also saw some templates, and there are some case materials. So those you can also view as templates. And then if you just Google and search for templates and software, you'll see that there is a lot out there. What is important is that you select a system and set up a system that works for the project and works for the team. So there's no one solution that will fit everybody always, all the cases. I hope that answers your questions. Let's go to live question number 2. Live question number 2 came in from Arif and is as follows. Scope for including provision for contingent situations in project planning. How can one manage contingent situations in implementing a program in post-conflict recipient country? Is there a possibility to include certain flexible provisions with the initial project planning? Okay, let me see. When you talk about provisions for contingent situations, I think you're talking about certain uncertainties. There are things that you don't know, and every project has uncertainties, and this actually is the starting point to look at risks and managing risks. Now, I can imagine in a post-conflict country, those uncertainties are probably even bigger than in let's say a normal quiet country. So what you want to make sure is that you look at, when you design the project, you look at what are some of these important uncertainties in the project, in the situation, in the program that we're looking at. And you may want to include, similar to what we discussed earlier about the risks of inflation or market conditions that change, you may want to include some contingency item in your budget to cover for some of these uncertainties or things that you don't know how you can address them. So basically, I think what you want to do in projects like that is you want to develop your scope for those parts that you know and you can develop. And then maybe you have a part of the project that is at this moment unknown because it depends on how things develop. So you allocate some amount of budget for that, and that will become clear as the project develops. I hope that answers your question. Okay, let's look at live question number 3. This question is about introverts or extroverts. Which make better project managers, or is there no correlation? What are the pros and cons of each personality trait? This is a great question. I think in projects you need different types of people. You need both introverts and extroverts. I will tell you a little bit personally. I am an introvert person. So I usually sit and listen and watch, and I only start talking if I feel I have something to add to the discussion, which is very different from an extrovert who likes to talk and likes to share her or his view and etc. Now, over time, I have learned that as a project manager and as a trainer and coach and workshop facilitator, I need to become more extrovert. So I have learned to become more extrovert. And I think the combination is really good. So I don't think you can say an extrovert or an introvert is a better project manager. What I find very important in project managers is that they listen well. They listen well to their stakeholders. They listen well to their team members. And as an extrovert, you have a little bit of a risk that you talk a lot. And if you talk a lot, you cannot listen. So you want to be careful with that. So if you are a clear extrovert and you are a project manager, you want to make sure you realize that, and you want to maybe talk a little bit less and listen a bit more to the people around you, and maybe behave a little bit more like an introvert. On the other hand, if you're a very strong introvert and you don't talk at all, that is also not good. So you probably need to have traits of both sides. I don't think there is a correlation between good or bad project managers and whether you are introvert or extrovert. And another thing I want to sort of share, there are a number of tools. I'm not sure if they're called tools, but there are ways how you can identify the personalities of people in your project management team. So there are tools like the Belbin tools. Maybe you heard of that. There is Insights Discovery, which works with colors. And I think that's very insightful. If you are going to work with a team on a project, I think it's very good to understand each other a little bit better. And these types of questionnaires and tools can really help to understand each other better. And that will probably help you to develop better into a team and develop your team into a well-performing team. So it's a very nice question. Thank you very much for that. It's actually a topic that I like very much because it links to the people in projects, and as I said earlier, I think people really make projects. So you need good people. You need to understand the people. You need to collaborate, understand each other, to improve and get better project results. Okay, I don't think we have any more live questions. I'm looking also at Cherise, and she's still checking, but I don't think any other questions came in. So that means we're gonna wrap up this session. I would like to thank you very much for joining us in this session. This session can also be looked into the recording. The link will be available on YouTube. Thank you very much for your participation in the course, and I would like to wrap up with thanking you for joining, letting you know that the next session will be October 11th. So on October 11th, we will have the next session for this year, and that will also be, I think, the final session for this course. So you can put your questions there. And then we'll pick up your questions there. I would like to thank Cherise and also Fernanda, who was also helping out in the background. Thank you all very much for making this session a good success again. And I wish you a very good day, a very good continuation in the course, and hope to see you all October 11th. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.